part 3 of building the blend. Part 3 is really going to be focused on student agency or student choice or control over path, pace, place, time, and the two that I think are most important that I'm going to focus on, voice and choice. So as we look at this, we're talking specifically about a student's ability to make key decisions in their learning. This is a main tenet of blended learning. And two things we're going to look at in this section are choice boards and playlists. Choice boards are covered under blended learning because we're talking about active engaged learning, online and offline. We all know choice is a powerful motivator. We all know students don't enjoy the same task. Choice helps us combat that. In addition, students have more control over the pace at which they work. Teachers, most importantly, are freed from orchestrating whole class lessons. In those small group or one-on-one sessions, they can provide feedback, talk about progress, or conduct assessments, quick checks to see how things are going. Let's look at some examples. In this first example, it's a this or that choice board based on the book Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Across the top, you see we have columns for explore, read, connect, and create. And for each of those, students have a choice. Under explore, they can do a Freyer model on specific topics, or they can watch the Edpuzzle on life in the 1930s. Either way, students have some control, some choice over their path, and therefore, based on the length or time it takes, their pace. Here's another example of a choice board. This one, 6th grade math. Directions in the middle. They're to complete at least 6 of the items offered. So there's some choice involved. They've got to show evidence, and then they use a fill tool to color in any boxes that they've completed. So pick where you want to start, pick where you want to go. The teacher has designed this in such a way that they feel confident that no matter which 6 items they pick, the lesson objective will have been met. This is an English 10 choice board. Not yet finished or completed, kind of shows you the process. Each one of the boxes are linked to a Google Doc with an explanation. So here you see the top 10 video on Flipgrid, writing song lyrics, or making a word web. And then as the teacher creates more, the directions go on the Google Doc to the left and are linked to the choice board. Just an example of offering students choice and what they want to complete. You can also do this based on standards or DOK levels. In this example, the teacher is going to create items at multiple DOK levels for students to have to complete. That way, ensuring that higher level things are addressed. Here's what that might look like. This one's on taxes, tips, and commission, one of those everyday skills. So the students have a choice, but each one of these things are working on proportional relationships. Playlists would be the next big area. A really big help for teachers in moving from whole group to a blended model. Gives a sequence of learning activities the students self-pace through. You want to include everything the student would need to be self-sufficient. So that goes back to some of those videos, maybe some of those things you might before have told the whole class, you're going to put in a video and make sure it's there on the playlist. Again, the key to all of these things is the teacher is working individually with a small group of kids while the others are working on these playlist tasks. Here's a template for a playlist. Starts with the directions at the top, due dates, great spot for a video. And then we've got skills and concept section, lists the DOK level, and shows how many points can be earned. The second section then is a strategic thinking section, a little higher DOK level, and each of those activities would be worth 3 points. We go to the other side and we see the extended thinking, DOK 4 points each. And then there's a spot for assessments to check. Now the directions clearly say you have to accumulate 15 points, but how you get there is completely up to you. In most cases, teacher would say, I would like you to complete something from each section, but that would be up to personal choice. So the students take a look at the items that are on there, decide what they want to work on, and go to work in earning those 15 points. Here's another one of those based on biology, and this is a week-long situation. In this case, the students are asked to accumulate 9 points by the end of the session. Gives them the due dates, gives them each of the activities, and even the assessment. Here's one from a literature class. This one's on the book Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. And these sections are split into know it, show it, and apply it, each with the applicable DOK levels and point values. In this case, students must accumulate 200 points, and there are 300 available in the playlist. I like these because it answers the question for most students, well, what's next? Well, let's see what you've done. Let's see what you've completed. How many points do you need? Let's go find something. That's what's next. Here's another one on literary argument writing. You see it offers choice. You see the path column, the first column, the directions for each of those. So you've given them the scope and the purpose of what's going on. You've given them choices in how to meet the objectives that you've set. You've got a mix of offline and online activities. You've flipped some of your instruction so they can self-pace through it when they have time. There's some formative assessment built in, and there's some conference time built in. There are many, many, many of these choice boards out there. One of the places that I've had the most luck in finding them is this Riverside Unified School District. And they have an entire page with pre-K through grade 12 choice boards and playlists. No matter where you find some, the key is going to be just give it a shot. We're not saying every day right away. We're to try it one day a week, maybe 2. Take that lesson, flip it horizontal, create those stations. We guarantee you it won't be perfect at first, but you'll get there. And it's going to be great for you and the small groups you get to reclaim, like in the hybrid or virtual teaching days. And for your students in terms of the one-on-one interaction they get and the collaboration and communication skills that they get when they're not with you. What are some other things to consider as you delve into blended learning? What about student grouping? How will you group your students? Well, I think most of you are already experts of that. Here are a few things. It could be skill level. It could be interest. It could be a learning preference. Anything that you see listed there. There's also some stealth grouping techniques where maybe you mix it up by giving each student a particular color of Post-it. And then they will head to that group when you're ready to roll. You can use some learner profiles when you start this to really find out about students and what they like and don't like. Maybe you can use an entrance ticket as a pre-assessment to sort students. If they score at a certain level, they're going to start with you in direct instruction. If they score at another level, perhaps they can go right to a choice board or a playlist in their workshop. If they score at yet a different level, maybe a middle level, they can go right to some content or vocab review. This is an interesting one. It kind of walks students through, would you rather read on your own or read with a partner? Engage in a small group discussion or just journal about your thoughts? Work alone or work in a small group? Conversations like this early on will help you sort those students and make your groups as effective as possible. Other helpful hints. Typed explanations for each station that live at that station are helpful. A Google Doc with directions, images, screenshots, links for stations with technology, video. Anytime you can record a video with explanations and instructions and objectives and post it in their space, that keeps you from answering the same question 300 times a day. Build in those next steps through those extension activities. Perhaps designate a part of the room for quiet individual reading or study. Use some cues, either visual or auditory, for moving between groups. There are many other things that we learned in our hybrid teaching and our virtual teaching that are worth keeping. Here's a few suggestions from Matt Miller. And when he sent out a question that said, what parts of the pandemic era remote teaching will you keep? One was the use of those back channels, the way for students to communicate with you when you're working with that small group. YoTeach is the example I think that I shared, but back channel chat is already also on here. Google Jamboard is another one that's really easy to set up and use. Online whiteboards. If you became proficient at this because you had to for virtual teaching, let's continue to use those. They are very good ways to bring your expertise right in front of your students, even when you're not together at the moment. One of the big things that were developed were SEL check-ins. Flipgrid is a wonderful tool, a tool that's been upgraded very much in the last year and a half, and is worth looking at again if you haven't looked at it. But checking in with students, a quick check-in to start, a quick check-in when they first come in the room before they enter the station rotation. So by the time they get to you, you've had a chance to look at those and avert any questions or problems that might derail what you're trying to get done that day. Family connections. It seems strange to me, but I think perhaps through virtual learning, we had maybe more conversations with people in the home than we did traditionally because they were there when we were online with their students, whether they were just walking through the background or whether they stopped and said hello and asked a question. So continuing that can be a positive influence on the student and impact on the learning in your classroom. I do appreciate you spending your valuable time with me. Contact information is on the screen. And thank you so very much for coming along as we build the blend.